It looks like we're still waiting for Vic to turn on his camera. There he is. Okay.
All right. One more second, probably 5 more seconds. All right, Mayor, you're on.
Thank you. I hereby call the Des Moines City Council regular meeting for Thursday, April 28th to order. And with that, I turn the Pledge of Allegiance over to Councilmember Pennington.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Pennington. Let the record reflect that all 7 members are present. And a quick announcement before we get into the regular part of the council meeting. As we continue to transition to the new normal, we anticipate holding in-person city council meetings again soon. Currently, the governor has prohibited in-person council meetings that don't have a virtual option. It is anticipated that he may lift that order in the next couple months, possibly in early June. Staff is closely watching this, and I will keep the council posted about when we can return in person. But like I said, it's probably most likely in June. So I just wanted everybody to know. Are there any correspondence?
Thank you, Mayor. There are no correspondence and no written public comment for tonight, but we do have Todd Fighter, Liz Taylor, and Marnie Savoris who want to give public comment this evening, and they have been admitted into the meeting.
Thank you. So before we take comments from the public, I would just like to remind those participants that any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who become boisterous, threatening, or personally abusive while addressing the council will be removed from the meeting. When it's your time to speak, you may turn your camera on if you have one. After you have concluded, please turn your camera off and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Our first person to speak is Commodore Fighter from the Des Moines Yacht Club, and because he's with an organization, I will allow 5 minutes for you, sir, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate everybody's time. I was on last month's council meeting and kind of gave a brief overview of. I apologize. I have a cold, so it's probably good we're not meeting in person. About our South Sound opening. So I just wanted to give a quick overview. I believe that there is going to be a proclamation later that the mayor will read, and sincerely appreciate that. But our South Sound opening starts on Friday, May 13th. And to give a little overview of the activities, we will have a car show. This is our 65th year. Des Moines Yacht Club was founded in 1957. So it's certainly appropriate to celebrate the Lost in the 50s theme. So we are going to have a car show on Friday evening, and there will be heavy appetizers to share, and then weather dependent, we will end up having a bonfire as well. And 50s music playing from our upper deck. Saturday is when the actual ceremony takes place, but prior to the ceremony, we will be doing a bird walk. We have some nature lovers in our club, and we have a professional birder that's coming in to walk not only our property but around Des Moines and doing some sightseeing and bird watching. So if you're so inclined, we'd love to see you there for that. And then later in the day, we'll be doing the wine walk. That's art and wine walk. That's in the downtown core area, followed by our ceremony, which starts at 3 o'clock, where we'll have about 20 visiting other yacht clubs that are coming into the Des Moines Marina, and then we'll also have about 25 boats on our dock celebrating the South Sound opening and the city of Des Moines. And then later that day, after our South Sound ceremony, we will have a themed attire 50s again, dinner and dance, and we're actually going to be doing homemade meatloaf in a TV tray. So kind of something again themed to the 50s. with a dance followed afterwards with live music from the band The Tropics. And then Sunday, our past Commodores will be putting on a pancake breakfast from 9 a.m. to noon for $6 a person. So a lot of activities, a lot of inbound members of other yacht clubs and of other communities that are going to be coming and visiting the city of Des Moines. We're hoping for good weather, so if anybody has any help on getting us some good weather for that weekend, we'd appreciate it. But that is it, and I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commodore Fighter. We look forward to hanging out with you that weekend.
Likewise, thank you so much.
Appreciate your time. All right, next on the agenda is Elizabeth Taylor or Liz Taylor. Is that your real name? Oh, you're on mute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes, that's my real name. It happened when I got married. It didn't happen,
Okay.
like my mom didn't do that to me.
Okay, got it. All right, with that, I'm going to yield the floor to you for the next 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Anyway, today I'd like to just advocate for hiring an animal control officer as soon as possible for our town. I feel a lot of folks, including myself, don't really want to involve the police for every animal control issue, nor do we want to confront people ourselves when an issue comes up. This is why I feel that we're in need of an animal control officer to be the bridge between neighbors, to enforce the laws so we can all feel safe in our communities. We should all be able to walk in our neighborhoods without fear of being attacked by a loose dog or confronted by a loose dog. We don't know how our own pet is going to react to that. Plus, the pets in our community also deserve a good life, and if there is in fact neglect, they should be rehomed. Please take care of the issue as soon as possible. I know we've been waiting a long time for a solution to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Appreciate that.
No problem.
All right, and we'll have you go ahead and turn off your camera. And then I'm going to call my next person for public comment, which is Marnie Savoris.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
And you're welcome to turn on your camera during the time you speak if you wish.
Oh, there's a lot going on. I'm at a bar watching the draft. So.
Okay.
Partially.
You have the floor for 3 minutes.
Turn off my camera. Hang on, I'm trying to figure it out. Oh, wait, here it is.
So I also sent an email to the council, but I feel like there was a little bit of confusion. So I just wanted to go over my email, I guess. So from it's in regards to animal control also. And so from all my research I have found is Jan Magnuson retired in like June of 2019, and Scott was hired shortly thereafter in 2019. And he resigned at the end of 2021. I reviewed some agendas, minutes, and video. And in November, the police chief mentions that they're working with the union regarding the animal control officer position, and that we're working on trying to find a more cost-effective solution or something along those lines. That committee meeting there's video to watch of it, and that he was going to give an update to the committee in December. I can't find any video or meeting minutes from the December meeting, so I can't tell if it really happened or not. And then it looks to me like the committee never met in January, February, or March. The committee did meet in April, at the beginning of April, and the police chief wasn't at that meeting, which I kind of find disappointing, since in November he said that he was going to provide an update in December. So I'm kind of wondering like where that update was. And then also in the April committee meeting, they mentioned they go over future committee meetings, and animal control has been postponed until June, which I realize June isn't very far away, but the next committee meeting is next Thursday, May. And I really think that needs to be brought up and discussed and be started working on. We've been without an animal control officer now for at least 6 months. Citizens are confused as to what to do. Somebody says, oh, I found a dog tied up to a fence. Are they supposed to call the police, or are we just supposed to keep doing it on Facebook so that we can then call Burien Cares? It feels like the citizens are doing a lot and they don't know where to go. And again, it's frustrating that we've been without this position for 6 months, and an update was supposed to be provided to the committee in December. And that is what I had to say.
Thank you, Ms. Boris. A quick clarification. I believe our December Public Safety and Emergency Management meeting was canceled due to some changes in the council that we went through in January through March. We had not had a committee assignments, and it was first brought up at the Public Safety and Emergency Management meeting in April. From what I understand, I believe it was moved to the May meeting from the June meeting in a change they made on the work plan. And I see the nods from my Public Safety and Emergency Management Committee meeting members. So I think you'll see it addressed at the next meeting, and I really appreciate your comments.
Okay, great. And I just want to make sure that as a citizen to join the committee meeting, information will be posted so that I can join that.
Yes, it will. It will be posted on the Friday prior to when that's scheduled, and you will be able to contact the city clerk for to be at that meeting.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, with that being done, I turn the floor over to our city manager, Michael Mathias, for the city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. First, I'd like to report yesterday, as a member of the executive board, I attended an administrative board meeting of our SCORE jail facility. That was a regular monthly meeting, and we also had a meeting of the Public Development Authority, which is the sort of another governing aspect of SCORE. I serve with city managers Carl Cole and the interim city man from CTAC and the interim city manager of Burien. And we also have Mayor Backus from Auburn, Mayor Eckberg from Tukwila, and the new mayor of Renton on that 6-member executive committee that oversees the jail. So Devin Schrum continues to do a great job as the executive director. And you'll see SCORE mentioned later in a presentation I'm going to give on the Recovery Plan Act. Also, we are pleased to have the Marina High School vessel Admiral Jack in guest moorage, holding student classrooms both on the water and in our activity tent. The city and Marina look forward to continuing the great relationship and partnership we have into the future with the Maritime High School and many aspects of their curriculum and activities that can be associated with activities that currently occur in the Marina and on the land side. With that, Mayor, I'd like to give an update on the American Rescue Plan Act. Bonnie, if you could call that up, thank you. Great. Trying to get, there we go. Okay. So what I'm going to present tonight is an update. This is not designed to be a time for council to reallocate these resources unless it's they choose to want to consider that at some future point. City Council reviewed and approved the ARPA expenditures at their meeting of September 16, 2021. The American Rescue Plan Act was a very significant amount of money appropriated by the federal government to address impacts of COVID. So I want to present an update tonight on those ARPA funds. Next slide. The city had received word last summer the federal government was going to be providing ARPA funds to municipal jurisdictions, and we were pleased for that. We're pleased for the efforts of our congressional delegation to support that. For the city, ARPA funds were included in the 2020 2022 budget. However, it was only recently the federal and state governments determined the appropriate reporting mechanisms, requirements, and documentation for ARPA. And this was something that was in transition for quite a while relative to federal guidelines that were changing. And this past week, the city submitted its first ARPA reporting to the federal government. One of the key pieces of working with the ARPA money is documentation of the expenditures. One of the most significant aspects of federal rulemaking, and if council, those members of council who were on the council in 2021 last September, remember that we had to designate what the cause of the need for the ARPA funds was, and those ranged all the way from tourism, lost revenue, economic development, and other aspects. Well, the federal government recently ruled that cities receiving less than $10 million could attribute all the potential costs that they were addressing to lost revenue, which made everything much easier relative to reporting and designation of the funds. The city received approximately $9.1 million, which was a proportionate share based on our population. And ARPA funds can be designated through 2024, and they can be paid through 2026. So I'd just like to walk through each of the status of each of the programs and that were approved and what we've been doing. So the council identified $1 million for park program support, and approximately $132,000 of that was for park security to enhance especially safe access to Stephen J. Underwood Park, but also for other parks. And so we've had a challenge in terms of identifying what's the best way. We did a review. I remember Councilmember Nutting was supportive of the idea that we would hire an FTE as opposed to some type of security company. So we've been looking into doing that, and we intend to do that. Once again, relative to parks and everything else in government at this point, regional staffing challenges persist for all sectors of activities in our city and in other cities as well. So, but that's how we're planning to move forward with that. There's also a significant amount of money for park program support, and that's utilized as we go forward, providing park programs. Next, there was a designation of money for the Fieldhouse play equipment, mostly at the Fieldhouse. Past play equipment there is 15 years old. Replacement has been a CIP or capital improvement project plan for the past few years, as well as a priority from the 2022 Parks Master Plan that Council approved recently. Total project cost will be higher, so we're working on other funding sources and timelines currently for the expenditure of those funds for the field house. Marina infrastructure. So the council approved $1.75 million for marina infrastructure and marina redevelopment. One of the additions to the funding, which will come out of this 1.75 million, was to emphasize marina redevelopment community presentation materials, $20,000. We've been working with Maddie Photography for multimedia materials. They recently did we contracted with them to provide a drone tour of the marina and the city. And that's on our marinasteps.com website. And this will be additional information as we move forward to provide input to the community digitally on what we're doing at the marina. Next, please. Marina Beach Park people movers. We're looking to purchase 2 8-passenger, that's spelled wrong, Virgo, I see it. We're looking to purchase 2 8-passenger electric golf cart shuttles that operate in a long-lasting lithium-ion battery. Environmental sustainability, a key feature of the marina redevelopment and actions that we're taking down there. Due to supply chain issues, the supplier communicated they will not be able to manufacture these until 2023. And so we're open to other options that have a daily lifespan of 8 hours or more, but the electrification piece is critical as we move forward. And we want to enhance the sustainability of the marina. And this is when we can do it. It's just a question of supply chain and when we can get our hands on the golf carts. Council allocated $75,000, which has been paid to the SR3. The donation contributes to sustaining life and environmental quality in Puget Sound. And I think it's quite remarkable that the city of Des Moines is the only city to have a marine mammal hospital located on the marina floor, and to provide resources for that to be successful as part of the stewardship, the environmental stewardship that we share and are responsible for relative to impacts from the city and the marina on Puget Sound, and to try to mitigate those in the best way possible. And so this was the utilization of those funds. Tenant restroom, we're looking at a $400,000 designation, which we're in the process of utilizing. Currently working with Exeltech to design the south tenant restroom. City's general fund is contributing $400,000 of the ARPA money to fund this. Project budget is about $733,000. Current preliminary cost estimates are over $1 million, and we will need to address the funding gap as part of the 2023 budget process of approximately $350,000 of capital expenditures. Police Department, council supported purchase of an evidence van. We identified a kind of a gross number, an estimate of needs for body cams and program consulting to implement the body cam program. We identified police vehicles and social worker vehicles, because one of the pieces that you'll see coming is the emphasis by council, which is, I think, extremely innovative and positive, of trying to engage social workers on police calls where we don't have a violent crime occurring, and where referrals or support for domestic issues social workers can address that better than having our officers involved in that type of process. We're also identifying funds, $830,000 for 2 new police officers. And as this goes out into 2024, council can see that there will be a structural need at the end of this period of time in 2025 to identify the resources in order to retain those positions. Also, this paid for the lease of Redondo Square space, where the integrated police agencies, the location down there of the offices for a number of partner agencies who operate out of Redondo. I can't thank the chief and his staff enough for establishing this and for emphasizing the need and the value of interagency cooperation. Next, please. This is the mental health expenditures I'm talking about. We're working with nonprofits. We're working to include 2 social worker contract positions, and it's possible that we're going to move those into FTEs that will be city employees as we're going forward. But this is part of very innovative and supportive community policing approach. It's something I know that Representative Orwell has been very supportive of this as a strategy. So we're looking forward to getting that up and running when we can hire the appropriate positions. Municipal Court, that is essentially funds that will support the court, who had revenue streams somewhat curtailed depending on what happened with COVID. But those an allocation of about $550,000 for our municipal court. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier regarding SCORE, $250,000 that is being paid to SCORE And it looks like we have an over allocation there in 2023, which should be $100,000. So that will be money that will be forthcoming. And at some point, we'd like to have Devin Shrum, the executive director, come and give a presentation to council on kind of the functionality and what's going on with SCORE, what was the effect of COVID, the pandemic, and where the jail is headed from here. As always, it's better to have Devin appear before us than the other way around. Tenant eviction resources. So this was $250,000. We've entered into a contract with Catholic Community Services beginning January 1st, serving residents with rent assistance and eviction prevention. First quarter, 8 households were served for a total of $23,000. Criteria for rental assistance: Des Moines resident, under 50% area median income, and impacted due to COVID. The rent assistance is capped at $5,000 per household. That program is moving forward. Once again, this presentation will be online, and I'm not going to repeat word for word here what we have, but it's information about the program, and more information can be found on the website that's identified, the link in this PowerPoint. Utility Assistance Program, we launched it in March, currently ongoing while funds are available, $250,000. The application requirements include household income cannot exceed 100% of average income. It's a residential account in Des Moines, request for a PSE account. 34 applications have been approved, paying out over $20,000 in utility assistance thus far. This is primarily a program done through Puget Sound Energy. We're in cooperation with them. Workforce training grants. This was a program associated with the new provide 20 workforce training and pre-apprenticeship tuition scholarship grants. We're currently in the process of working out the details to transfer these funds to a new. We've been impressed with their efforts. They have been recipients in the past of the Human Services Commission recommendations. And at some point, we're going to have a new come to council and just let council understand in more detail what they do, how they go about it. It's a great program. We're proud to be involved supporting them. Same with healthcare support. That would be $200,000 that we're looking to provide healthcare. We've not yet contracted or actually located the provider that will be able to help us with this, but it just enhances availability of healthcare for especially lower income residents and seniors who need that type of support. We also look to council in their wisdom, work to enhance human services. We added $75,000 to the Human Services Committee. The goal has always been to get to 1% of the general fund. I think we're there now, at least. And we started out at about $80,000 about 5 years ago, and now we're up to over $250,000 for human services. And that all comes through the budgeting authority and decision-making of the City Council. We also have emergency transitional housing, $300,000, and I do not believe we have located a provider for that as of yet. Metro program expenditures. This is to continue offering weekday and Saturday service between Angle Lake and Des Moines Marina. We have a separate contract with Metro to provide daytime service. Basically, it's scheduled service. We're hoping this ultimately becomes fixed route. This also provides routing within Wesley and getting people from Wesley to the farmers market, for example, on Saturdays. It supports emergency response and transportation alternatives should those ever be needed. It supports economic development as greater mobility and options encourage people to come to Des Moines and be able to spend money and enjoy themselves. And it also assures multimodal transportation options, not only on the land side, but as we move forward with passenger ferry service, the shuttle can help bring the public to that facility. Additional traffic calming, this was $100,000, primarily permanent radar feedback signs that are being purchased and will be put around the city, and it expands our capacity to monitor traffic speeds throughout the city. ADA compliance program, same thing, $100,000. Continued ADA compliance, focusing on sidewalk lifts, panel replacements, and curb ramp upgrades. The EATS program will continue through 2022, and it has been running continuously for several years due to COVID. Provides relief to local restaurants. We contract with restaurants for coupons that are then distributed to our seniors, and to the degree we're able, to our vets. And the restaurants have received economic relief, additional patronage. We've put about $120,000 so far into our small business community through the restaurants. And we anticipate being able to do more of that until these funds are expended. Small business grants. This was $500,000, which included a regional partnership of $64,000. And what this is going to be is providing business grants to local businesses. And we decided finally administratively to work with a third-party provider who can help do this in a completely transparent and neutral manner. We'll be accepting applications starting in May, and the total amount available is approximately $450,000 after fees to the nonprofit. We have finance used this budget publishing software, which was a book software that allows them to enhance their ability to do budget preparation. And program expenditures for ARPA, $150,000 of the $9 million was set aside should we need support in our reporting to the federal government. And we potentially are hiring a staff accountant to backfill current staff accountant to assist with ARPA activity and compliance. I want to acknowledge Jeff Friend, our Deputy Finance Director, for his efforts in reporting on ARPA and understanding what the regulations are, and sitting through endless Zoom discussions with the federal government, trying to understand what it was they wanted us to accomplish. Emergency Management Comprehensive Plan, we spent $8,000 to complete that plan. That plan has been approved by the state of Washington, and we will be presenting that to council at a later council meeting. But this money provided the opportunity for us to complete the plan with consulting support. Shannon led that effort, did a great job with it. And so we're excited to come back to council and share with you what our emergency management plan looks like. Food trucks, same thing. We were council designated $60,000. And this was to try and go about the evaluation of how to promote or support food truck locations, especially on the Marina, but elsewhere. And at the same time, to identify what are the limits relative to food truck locations, and make sure that there's compliance with our zoning and with our code and with our right of way. And what's the easiest way to integrate food trucks, very successful on the Marina floor at special events, but to make sure that we were doing all that we could to enhance the location and the ability to locate, but also the operation of food trucks without it being intrusive into neighborhoods where those are not compatible activities. And finally, cool air misters, given the heat of the summers that we've experienced recently, we're purchasing a number of these, and we'll put them at the senior center and in other locations, field house, wherever we need them, to try and help people deal with the weather. And that is essentially all of the allocations that were made by council in September, and an update on where we are with all of them. And if you have questions, be happy to try and answer those or bring back answers at a future point. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Michael. Pretty comprehensive report there. With that, start questions with Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. And Thank you, Michael. I'm sorry if these will be short, but they're all over the map. So what will the park person, you said it's an FTE position. Can you just, like, in a few words, what their job duties will be? You mentioned security.
Yes, their job duties are, so for example, right now, we're concerned, we put money into Stephen J. Underwood, and both the Circle of Flags and the tribute to Officer Underwood, and a lot of new play equipment and a roof to protect it depending on the weather. And we don't feel that that facility is able to generate as much access and activity as we would like. And one of the reasons for that is the security aspects, and then also, for example, making sure the bathrooms, they're hygienically clean and safe and all of that. So the FTE would be responsible for Underwood and other park venues to make sure that hygiene is accomplished, trash is taken out, and there's someone, on, and they may not be located there the entire day, but they would make, repeating trips to the park to assure that there's security and safety, and people can use that park much more in the future than they're able to at the moment.
No, got it. Those are all great things. I just didn't want to create the impression that there was going to be a security guard there for every softball game or, so on, but that's great. Could you the utility vouchers, why was only Puget Sound Electric or Energy, PSC, why were they chosen as the sole vendor? Or is that still a work in progress?
Well, I think there's two parts to that. And I think if either Eric or Rochelle would want to add to this, but one of the reasons we work with PSC is because they have this program in place for PSC. So this was a way to address Des Moines residents specifically through an existing program, which made the formation of it much easier. And I believe that was pretty much where we settled on being able to, electric bills, of course, being significant, and providing heating and other critical, access. And even to the point where we don't think of it often, but medical equipment runs off PSE. There's lots of things that need to happen with that. So that was my understanding of, why we talked to other providers, but I believe PSE was the most kind of the quickest to get up and running.
Okay, thank you. Two other real quick things. Is there any opportunity to disperse each vouchers more widely? I'm just, it's a wonderful program, but there are a lot of seniors in the south end of town, and is that something that has been thought about a bit?
Well, the thing about it is the EATS program has kind of grown as we've had it. So it's simply a function of the allocation of resources for that relative to how they can be dispersed. We've used the senior center, we used the Union Hall somewhat for the vets. If there were more resources and we wanted to increase what the outlay for that was, we could potentially increase the number of vouchers available. I think that I don't know the exact response of this, but I think that for the restaurants, they were pleased with the amount that we were purchasing from them. And perhaps that could be increased with individual restaurants. Maybe it's a $5,000 allocation instead of $2,500 each week, or maybe it's 2 restaurants, separate amounts. But we've not had any difficulty distributing the vouchers.
No, I'm just, I just look at the demographics, and you have a significant number of people who don't make it to 216. That's all. So last but not least, this is probably rhetorical, but I have to ask, did you say $1 million for restrooms? Or did it just,
no, for tenant restrooms. And that's, Maybe I could have Andrew, are you available to comment on that? Or Dan?
Yeah, you heard correct. That's our current cost estimate is just over $1 million for the tenant restroom for design and construction.
Okay, was that plan or have just costs? I mean, I'm resisting the urge to make a flip comment about, precious materials used and so on, but I won't. Yeah, I mean, was it always?
Yeah, the design that we're intending to use for the tenant restroom is going to be almost mirror the design theme that was used in the North Lot restroom as part of the North Bulkhead project. So there's consistency with design themes through that area. And that's essentially fairly similar cost to what we're seeing in the restroom for the North Lot. They're about $1 million.
So this is not any surprise. This isn't like, truckers strike, something like that or whatever. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you. I see Deputy Mayor Buxton had her hand up, and then I recognize Councilmember Steinmetz next.
Thank you. So just listening to that for a moment. So is that, so the tenant restroom, when I was taking notes, it was 400,000 of ARPA funding that was being allocated to that restroom, even though that restroom costs more than what's being allocated. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, there's there's about 375,000 or so in Marina capital funds that we've set aside over the years for that. Where the council chose last year to augment that with an additional 400,000 of ARPA funds. That brings us up to about 750,000 or so, and the costs right now are just over $1 million. So we still have a bit of a funding gap to close, and we'll be working with council on that moving forward.
And then that was part of the 1.75 million for Marina infrastructure. That's considered part of the Marina infrastructure allocation.
No, it's not. That's separate.
Okay, separate. All right. Thanks. That was my only question. Just trying to get it clear.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Moving on to Councilmember Steinmetz.
Trying to unmute here. All right. Yeah, Michael, can you give us a little bit of an overview of the timeline involved here? I think a lot of people are going to hear, wow, we approved this in September and some of the money hasn't even been distributed yet. And while some of us understand you got to deal with the federal government, you've got to find the vendors, you got to do a lot of things in order to get that money properly distributed. I think it would behoove everyone to hear what the timeline is like and why does it take from September till April, to really start seeing some of this money rolling out.
Well, I think you gave the answer.
So I teed it up for you, I thought.
Yeah, right. Softball. So I didn't, for example, there was one other thing too, what had come up, and I'll just add this on, there'd been a discussion about Saltwater Park and they wanted some, I believe, temperature gauges and so forth. We met with them, we wrote them a check separately. That was done, I think, back in January. Some of these, I didn't go into when these were distributed, but some of these have been distributed over the course of the last 4 months. Councilmember Steinmetz, I think the critical element is what you described, was we were not confident until we had the Fed's final word as to how to go about distributing these resources. Some of them we put into play already, the utility program, a number of other things. But generally speaking, it took us, I've been meeting for about 4 months. Eric and I have been working with a nonprofit, Evergreen, that will help us with the small business grant program. But that it takes time to get all the pieces lined up, and how does the city want to approach it and all of that. So I think the main thing, and it should be expedited going forward, And these should obviously be, it's for a 4-year, it's for a 3-year period till the end of 24, and we could pay it up until 26. So the feds anticipated there would be some spread in the timeframes, but we've tried to expedite it as quickly as possible. Now that we have the final word from the feds, it should go faster.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Michael, I have a couple questions. Can you remind me, and probably for Nicole as a question, but can you remind me what is in the parks program support?
What's in the parks program support is essentially support for the parks program, given the literally lost revenue for not being able to collect revenue. And how do we maintain, because that was, Mayor, that's a great question, because it's similar to what we did with community development. We have Fund 105, and that's supposed to take us through the down troughs and the upsides. Well, that did not exist in parks. And so in order to have, to the degree we've been able, our park staff retained, ready to work as we go forward. And once again, labor shortages, it's very difficult for all parks departments right now to acquire the help they need. But that was primarily to make up and maintain our parks department in some form of readiness for when COVID, started to decrease, which is currently what's happening. So that was I would say the main use, sort of substitution money, one might say.
Okay. My second question is, so I've seen the utilities assistance being advertised. Which ways are the rental assistance being advertised to let community members know it's available? Does the Catholic Services do that, or is it a function we're trying to operate?
I think let me ask Rochelle to comment, because I can utilize the PowerPoint, but I think Rochelle has been more involved with that, or Eric.
Yes, I can jump in if that's okay. So Catholic Community Services does advertise on their website, as well as 211. If anybody calls 211 and they say, how can I seek rental assistance, they will let them know for Des Moines, contact Catholic Community Service and put them directly in touch with them. And then also Catholic Community Services is going to be doing intense outreach within our community over the next month or so, just because we want anyone and everyone who needs that to have all the information they need.
Okay. Thank you. One final question for me is, I know we'd set aside $100,000 for charitable organizations. I didn't see that in the report. I just wanted to ask if there was a plan for that piece of the pie, you might say.
Yeah, no, there absolutely is. And I believe I saw that in the PowerPoint at some point, but you're right. Some of it may not have made it to the final version. But yeah, council did identify, there's actually two things. One was $100,000 for nonprofits. So we're trying to, figure out who would be eligible for that located in the city. And so that's a work in progress, let us say. And right. The other thing was, Mayor, you had been instrumental in including, I think, $300,000 for any airport related activities. What we're holding on to that money until the SAMP is released and there's the environmental assessment. And if more resources are needed for that at that time, we can draw on that 300,000. And then the remainder of that, or other portions of that 300,000, could be used for community education, public input, just ways to engage the community in the whole SAMP process. I know that you heard a little of that yesterday at START, as did I.
Yep, thank you. Moving back, I see Councilmember Harris's hand up for your second time, sir.
Yeah, Michael, just really quick. What is the purpose of the people mover thing? And also, like, do they have like a general life expectancy? Like 5 years, 10 years? Yeah.
Well, I'm reluctant to say the purpose is to move people, but
by all means, man.
But Yeah, well, the purpose is primary, there's so many times at the marina, especially, farmer's market, bringing people from the south parking lot up to the farmer's market and then back. Events that happen, weddings that happen, inclement weather where you want to transport people in a relatively dry environment. Those are sort of the primary uses. And length of time,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to look at the specs of what we're looking at.
Just how many people does each one, could hold?
I don't know. I'm going to call on Scott. Scott, I know you've been doing some of the research here.
Like 8, 10, 20?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, no, they hold 8 people, and they are used for like special events, for the beach parking event center, for the farmers market. Some of the marina events could be used for passenger ferry, and we have 2 now that are lead acid batteries. They just don't last a day, and this is going to be quite the improvement.
So just, and not to beat on this, I'm familiar with golf carts, okay, but these things are purpose built. They could take somebody from the beach park auditorium, and as far as Anthony's, let's say, and they're road ready, okay? They can
Or
handle
yes,
concrete and all that jazz.
yeah, or far, yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris. Second time for Deputy Mayor Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. So just some clarity on that human services question, and then the $100,000 allocation for nonprofit grant program. I guess I was just under the impression that that was going to be human services, and that would be run through our human services advisory committee. But are we thinking that some of this is going to be allocated to non-human services nonprofit? That was my impression, that somehow that $100,000 nonprofit grant program was a human services program going to be.
So the way I think that worked with council was the council allocated $75,000 additional dollars to human services, and
Okay.
separately allocated $100,000 for nonprofit awards to nonprofits. So those are 2 separate buckets for 2 separate purposes.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I can affirm that was the purpose. We separated those 2 sets of money. One was the purposes for nonprofits that build community, I think was the focus we were after. Before we move ahead, is there any more questions? Seeing none, Michael? Do you have anything else to report?
That probably joyfully for everyone, that concludes my report. So,
right. Thank you for your time, and we appreciate the update. Moving on, will the deputy clerk read the consent agenda, please?
Item 1, approval of vouchers. Item 2, Mental Health Awareness Month proclamation. Item 3, Affordable Housing Week proclamation. Item 4, South Sound Boating Season Opening Day proclamation. Item 5, Des Moines Municipal Court and Federal Way Municipal Court interlocal agreement for sharing peer support services. Item 6, Port of Seattle Economic Development Grant. Item 7, settlement agreement and release Des Moines Legacy Foundation. And that concludes the consent calendar, Mayor.
Councilmember Nutting?
I move to approve the consent calendar as read.
Do I have a second? Councilmember Pennington? Thank you. Is there any council member that wishes to pull an item?
Yes, Mayor.
Councilmember Harris, I see you first.
Thank you. I'd like to pull item 6.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Oxiger, I saw your hand up as well.
I'm sorry, my agenda's disappeared. I need to pull the
item 7.
Item 7, yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so for the consent agenda, we will be voting on items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's go ahead and take a vote on those. All in favor, raise your right hand. Seeing 7 votes, passes unanimous as it should be. Thus the consent agenda. And we will move on. We will open up the floor to Councilmember Harris for item 6.
Thank you, Mayor. This is somewhat rhetorical. We went through this 2 years now, I think, and if I thought I had the votes, I would ask that this be sent back for renegotiation. The city either to torture me or whatever, or just it's cut and paste. There's always a line in there that asks for or support for the century agenda. It is not a requisite of obtaining the grant, and it should not be in any grant applications the city makes, because supporting the century agenda means supporting more flights, more cargo, more noise, more pollution, all the health disparities and inequities, and it should just be excised. Whatever Microsoft Word or however these things are done, please remove it. And so, you know, let's vote and move on. Thanks.
Is there any other comments before we take a vote? I'll add one. I think this is a great use of money. It's going to support our business grant program and advertise that. It supports our EATS program amongst a couple other things. So it's a good use of money. And I don't think we sell our soul when we take it. With that being said, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. I see Councilmember Steinmetz. I see Councilmember Pennington. I'm sorry.
Was there a motion for number 6?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we need a motion. Is there a motion to approve? Thank you, City Clerk. Councilmember Nutting.
I don't have the motion pulled up, so.
I'll be glad to read it. A motion to accept the Port of Seattle Economic Development Partnership Program grant in the amount of $66,200 and authorize the city manager to sign the grant agreement substantially in the form as attached. Port of Seattle Economic Development Grant.
So point of order, are you making the motion or?
Yes, to correct it, I'll make the motion for it and I'll accept
second.
you as the second.
Correct, Mayor.
With that being done, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. I see Councilmember Steinmetz, Councilmember Pennington, Councilmember Oxiger, Councilmember Buxton, or Deputy Mayor Buxton, Councilmember Nutting, and myself. All those opposed? I see Councilmember Harris. Item passes 6-1. All right. Item 7, the settlement agreement and release Des Moines Legacy Foundation. I yield the floor to Councilmember Oxiger.
Yes, I have a remote interest in this matter, and I will be recusing myself.
Thank you. Is there any other comments before we call for a motion? All right. I will go ahead and make the motion as I have it here handy. The motion is to approve the settlement agreement and release with Des Moines Legacy Foundation and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement substantially in the form as submitted. Settlement agreement and release Des Moines Legacy Foundation. Do I have a second? I see Councilmember Harris for a second. Any discussion further before I take a vote? Seeing none. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. I see Councilmember Steinmetz, Councilmember Pennington, Deputy Mayor Buxton, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Harris, and myself. Vote passes 6-0 with recusal. All right. Moving on, we're going to read the proclamations. I'm going to start with my apologies. Deputy Mayor Buxton is going to read the mental health awareness and affordable housing proclamations, and then I'll do the voting season day. Go ahead. You got the floor, Deputy Mayor Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas mental health is part of overall health, and whereas 1 in 5 adults experiences a mental health problem in any given year, and 1 in 17 adults lives with mental illness such as major depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia. And whereas suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States and the 2nd leading cause among young adults. And 90% of people who die by suicide had shown symptoms of a mental health condition, according to interviews with family, friends, and medical professionals. And whereas early identification and treatment can make a difference in successful management of mental illness and recovery. And whereas it's important to maintain mental health and learn the symptoms of mental illness in order to get help when it's needed. And whereas every citizen and community can make a difference in helping end the silence and stigma that for too long has surrounded mental illness and discouraged people from getting help. And whereas public education and civic activities can encourage mental health and help improve the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness, the Des Moines City Council hereby proclaims the month of May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness Month. Okay. And here is the proclamation with regard to affordable housing. Whereas all people should have access to safe, healthy, and affordable homes within the communities of opportunity. And whereas studies have found that each $100 increase in median rent results in a 15% increase in homelessness in metro areas and a 39% increase in homelessness in nearby suburbs and rural areas. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated many existing financial constraints for low and moderate income households. And whereas the CDC recognizes safe, healthy, and affordable housing within communities of opportunity as key social determinants of health. And whereas everyone benefits from affordable housing, including the people who reside in these properties, their neighbors, businesses, employers, and the community as a whole. And whereas the need for affordable homes across King County prior to COVID-19 pandemic and the number of people experiencing homelessness had remained at crisis levels. And whereas united to raise public awareness, people, organizations, and communities throughout King County are participating in local Affordable Housing Week activities to elevate the critical need to create healthy communities with ample affordable housing. And whereas the City of Des Moines endorses the goals, objectives, and purposes of Affordable Housing Week, and in doing so firmly recommits itself to ensuring that our community's recovery from the crisis at hand is equitable, and that all people in Des Moines live with dignity in safe, healthy, and affordable homes. Now, therefore, the Des Moines City Council hereby proclaims May 8 through 14, 2022 as Affordable Housing Week. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Obviously, on May 14th, we'll be reading this. I'll be reading this document at the Des Moines Yacht Club, but the Des Moines City Council hereby proclaims May 14th as this year's South Sound opening day of boating season and asks the community to join in supporting the Des Moines Yacht Club advocacy for safe enjoyment of boating for all and the promotion of the Des Moines waterfront amenities serving the South Sound boating community. So now we'll move on to new business. We will move on to new business. This time is for the sole purpose of proposing new business items that have not previously been before the council for the discussion of future agenda. This is not a time for questions about old business. Council members can submit questions or seek updates on previously discussed business to the city manager at any time. Do any council members have new business they would like to propose?
Yes, Mayor.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. I guess you could say this is somewhat old business in that it goes back to 2012. I was we all, really were impressed with the presentation at our last meeting for the 23 new homes along 216th. And, it struck me that right across the street, the Port of Seattle is finally getting around to providing sound insulation for the apartments that were part of the third runway agreement. All councils do great things, but occasionally make a mistake. And in 2012, the prior council passed ordinance 1539, which removed all sound transmission code. Basically, there's no longer any building code with sound transmission. This is a drastic oversimplification, but one of the prices for the cities that got the port package program was that each city would put in a building code such that new construction would be basically similar to the sound reduction, the noise reduction of having a port package. And it makes sense if you think about it, because the federal taxpayers don't want to have to pay twice for the same real estate.
So Councilmember Harris, understanding where you're coming from, what are you proposing?
I'm right. It's basically, I would like to reinstate the sound code, which was removed via 1539. And I will wrap it up to say that if one looks at the whereases, they are basically false premises. They just are things that were not factually true. And we cannot expect.
Councilmember Harris, look, what you're asking for, it can be open for discussion.
Sure.
Are you proposing it go back to committee for review to bring before council? Is that what you're proposing?
I want to get 3 people to basically have this put on an agenda. And I just have to finish up the people on the south end outside the DNL.
So Councilmember Harris, yes, hold on, Councilmember Harris. So what you're proposing is that would all go in agreement with you that it get referred to the Municipal Facilities Committee for review before it would come to the council. And I'll support that.
Cool.
Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Wait, I see Dan Brewer with a comment or question.
I have a question.
And then I see you, Deputy Mayor Buxton.
Yeah, if you want to refer this to committee, I would recommend Economic Development Committee. Municipal Facility Committee would not be the right committee.
All right, understood that. I will agree. I will agree that. I see City Manager Matthias, and I'll get to you, Deputy Mayor, in a second.
Yeah, thank you. The consideration here, it can be referred, that's fine. I think what we need to do is kind of look at this in context and look at it relative to International Building Code, look at it to what are commensurate types of situations in other cities, where we stand with that. So what I would ask is, prior to a referral for action on the suggestion, that staff provide to the Economic Development Committee an analysis of what that might look like before there's a decision to move forward with that particular ordinance.
Thank you, Michael. I think that was where we headed. Councilmember Harris, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Buxton's next. Then I'll yield the floor to you.
No, Dan clarified that was going to be my suggestion as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Harris, clarification on your proposal.
So 20 seconds here. The CTAC and Burien, see, all 3 of the cities that provided port packages put in the same code, and they kept theirs, and we rescinded ours. And the deal is that they were able to build new houses. So the premise was, and one last thing, this city actively supported legislation to expand the DNL.
So Councilmember Harris, I think that's for the other time. You've made a proposal and you've got enough support for staff to look at it and bring forward to the Economic Development Committee.
Do we have 2 other?
So you have my support, and it sounds like you got Councilmember Steinmetz and a few others. So
Groovy.
So there you go. Councilmember Penning, did you have a comment, or are you just raising your hand, or? Okay, looks like you were raising your hand in support. So we'll take it to the Economic Development Committee after staff reviews it, and they can bring it to that committee.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mayor, point of
Yes,
clarification. I would like to understand when this happens, from the dais, we just reviewed, Chair Nutting reviewed the work plan for the Economic Development Committee. And I'd like to know what is the process council wants to follow, adding something to the work plan.
so my thinking on this is that if staff does a preliminary review, that committee can look at it and they can make a decision as to whether it should go on the work plan for this year and something else should come off, or if they can fit it in or they can't, and that'll be based on a staff recommendation. Is that
Okay,
good enough
that's okay.
answer?
I mean, I understand that it requires, and I'm just being, protective of our capacity here. But
Absolutely.
that requires staff to do at least a preliminary look. I believe we can do that. Hopefully it won't hold up other things.
Yeah, understood. Councilmember Oxiger, you have a comment?
Yes, doesn't this require a formal vote?
It does not. In this particular case, if 3 members of council wanted to go forward at an action like that, that's all we need. Is that correct, City Attorney George?
According to the council rules, yes.
Okay, thank you. So it doesn't need to go to the vote, but we have enough support for it on this new business that'll be reviewed and be forwarded for consideration to the Economic Development Committee. Does that satisfy your question, sir?
It just seems that if we vote to not put things on the calendar, that we should have a vote on it.
No, council.
Point of order, you need a vote so that it appears in the official minutes.
No,
That's why.
we have it in the official minutes because we've remanded it to this staff action and committee. And that's all we need today. And with that being said, we will move it on and we will move to board and committee reports unless somebody else has new business. Seeing none, I open the floor to Councilmember Pennington.
I attended the Economic Development Committee meeting this evening. It's the first one. We went over the 2022 work plan. It's a pretty full plan. It's got a couple of tiers, a lot of activity in there. Anyway, I'll let the chair, Councilmember Nutting, give the full report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Pennington. Moving on to Councilmember Steinmetz.
Yeah, I attended the Municipal Facilities Committee meeting. I am now the co-chair or the vice chair of that. And we have, again, a work plan in place, but I think, it's the first time anybody had seen this. So I'm hoping that there is a little flexibility as we move on and discuss that. Secondly, is that I went to the extravaganza on the Saturday before Easter, and it was an absolutely fabulous event. Nicole and her staff just deserve great kudos for pulling this off. There were probably about 100 registered kids plus their parents there. There was lots of indoor things to do because it was a little chilly down there on occasion if you didn't wear a really warm coat. That included, coffee, hot chocolate, and tea. There were guessing games. You could get your picture taken with the Easter Bunny who was there. South King County Fire brought a fire truck over. And it's really cool to see the kids' eyes just light up when they can climb up into a fire truck. All in all, it was really a tremendous event. I know Mayor Mahoney was there and Tracy, Deputy Mayor Buxton was there. I was there. I don't know if anybody else was there, and I'm not leaving you out intentionally, but I think it was very well attended and a very well received event. And then thirdly is I got my 4th booster. I would like to encourage everybody who's currently eligible to do that. I went to a local pharmacy just on their website, made an appointment. It was an easy thing to do and was able to get it done. I think I made the appointment midweek and was in on Saturday to get that done. in fact, after the extravaganza. And so, the boosters are available. The fourth one is for anybody that at this point, I think, if you have any particular immunocompromises, I'm diabetic, and so that qualified me to get that. So I would encourage everybody to get it done. It's easy. My arm was sore for a day. That was about the only impact I had from that. So please take care of yourselves, take care of your family, take care of your community, and get yourself boosted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Steinmetz. Moving on to Councilmember Oxiger.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Nutting.
Thank you, Mayor. Attended the Economic Development Committee where I was elected chair, and Councilmember Pennington was elected vice chair. We went over our work plan for the year. The big talking points is, I mean, we've got a really packed work plan here. Zenith Properties. We got 4 months before the scoping letter comes out. We're doing an extended comment period from a 21-day to a 30-day. And so we hope to hear something back by about June. Our housing action plan, and then some Marina redevelopment updates and that kind of stuff. So that's about what happened there. And then municipal facilities met today after economic development, where again I was elected chair, and Councilmember Steinmetz was going to be the co-chair, is going to be the co-chair. And again, we went over our action plan for the year. It's very packed. We'll be getting some email updates, and possibly some of the updates might come to the full council just to help out, just to lighten the load, if you would. Yeah, I think that's all I've got for today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Nutting. Moving on to Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. So I attended the first in-person meeting of the Port of Seattle Commission, and it's like visiting an old friend. They have a very interesting hybrid system. It works really good. We should do it. Of note, they put in a little item to basically they are doing a pilot for hydrogen storage. And there are working hydrogen cell gas stations for autos, but you really want to think about, they have like millions of gallons of Jet A underneath the tarmac. And so, you really want to think about a couple of million gallons of compressed hydrogen. Yeah, 300 degrees below zero. So it's something to watch. I thank you for supporting the sound code thing, because the deal is you will never get FAA reimbursement for any geography that does not require sound code. No congresswoman in Mississippi will vote for to pay to retrofit a new home. Okay, so this is something we need to do before the SAMP. Otherwise, we're not for real. It's like making seatbelts optional. It would send a message that it's the noise is, it's just an annoyance. Yeah, you'll love this. I actually took a tour of SCORE today with Devin Shrum, and she wanted me to tell people that they are hiring. And it looks like a really good place to work. It's a beautiful facility. It really made me feel good about spending public money. And I put some of their brochures in my box, and yeah, it's a really good career path. And finally, on a less pleasant note, I got booted off the Police Advisory Committee today for the second time. The first time it was city manager. Today it was the mayor. It's supposed to be the police chief's thing. But this is another reason why essentially everything should be on the record, recorded, okay? And because otherwise everything happens in the dark, phone calls, and you really don't know who to believe. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris. City Manager Mathias, did you have a clarification?
I do. I just want to be clear. I think Councilmember Oxinger had asked for a vote on something to make it specific and documented and clear. So I just want clarity here. When Councilmember Harris says, thank you for supporting the sound thing, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is not that council voted to support it. Council voted to review it. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Deputy Mayor Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I was happy to see that we passed on our consent calendar this Federal Way partnership with peer support services. So I think that's going to be a great opportunity for our community, both of them together. And that's a nice segue to our mental health awareness proclamation. So I also wanted to mention that we have a community resource guide. The city of Des Moines does, which is very comprehensive. If anybody is looking for resources or help, not just, well, suicide prevention, mental health support, just lots of different kinds of support is in this community guide. And if maybe you could help me out, Bonnie, I think if you go onto our website and just type in community resource guide.
Community services guide.
Community services guide.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yes.
It's great. And you can get it online. So wanted to make you aware of that. I attended a meeting of citizens that were interested in forming a block watch last Saturday. And I want to give kudos to our mayor in particular, and one of our residents in the community, Sally Odegaard, for really doing so much work to put this together and gathering citizens together. There was also Sally's son, Tyler, and the mayor invited another council member, Councilmember Kwan from CTAC, gave some great input to our citizens. So I appreciated that. There was good feedback, community participation, and these members will be, in touch with DMPD moving forward to create more safety in their neighborhood. So I appreciated that meeting last Saturday. Some of you may know the Sound Cities Association is a huge voice it's a voice that gathers all the cities together in King County except the city of Seattle to create a strong, unified voice so that all of the suburban or smaller cities end up having voices at the table too when it comes to regional policy. Anyway, our director, Deanna Dawson, has been hired for as the CEO of Association of Washington Cities. So she'll be an incredible advocate in Olympia for Washington cities. And I've heard this a few different times, quote, she is going to put Washington cities on the map. I'm telling you, she is a force to be reckoned with. And I think she's going to be a fabulous advocate for Washington cities. So really happy. The farmers market is gearing up, opening day, June 4th. Hope to see you there. We're going to have a great summer. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Buxton. With that being said, yes, commenting about the 30th Avenue Block Watch. It was great to see a cross section of the residents up there helping look after each other and look at ways to prevent crime. So I'm excited about what their future opportunities are And I've turned that information over to the chief, and I am very confident that he will address the issue and get them going. With that being said, a lot of rain in April. Look forward to the May flowers, as they say. And I encourage everybody to have a safe and enjoyable weekend. And our next meeting will be May 5th at 5 p.m. For a regular meeting of the Des Moines City Council. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn? I see Councilmember Nutting making the motion, I suspect. And I see a tie for the second with Councilmember Pennington, Councilmember Steinmetz. With all that, with that being said, all those in favor, raise your right hand. And I see all 7 of us. And with that, everybody have a nice weekend.